Hi everyone, and welcome to Discovery Presents Chats with Changemakers. I'm your host Tiffany, and I'm a ninth grader in Texas. I participated in Discovery's Future City competition when I was in middle school. Every Friday we will welcome a different guest from the engineering community. Today our special guest is Brad, a land surveyor at NCES. Brad, welcome.
Hey Tiffany, how are you today?
Good. So I'm guessing that a lot of our audience members don't know what a land surveyor is, even though it's one of the most important jobs in the country. So Brad, could you explain to us exactly what a land surveyor does?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I feel like the growth of land surveying and being a land surveyor, I'm still trying to figure it out exactly myself. The the whole thing is so diverse. It's so wide, right? Like you got all these areas of practice, and everybody kind of has their specialty. I would think that if I had to say, my specialty is probably boundary surveys. So like
Okay.
property rights and determining property boundaries. If I had to define what a land surveyor is and what a land surveyor does, kind of that elevator speech, we're going to summarize this vast, huge expanse of a profession into two sentences. I think that we collect measurements in the field, and those measurements could include property corners, they could include topographic information. These could be for geodetic survey control for a project. And we provide that information, we relay that information to design professionals for roadways, bridges, infrastructure, that kind of thing. Or we relay to our clients the information, the evidence that we've collected in regards to a property boundary. We relay our opinion for that particular boundary to our clients. There are countless sects of surveying in regards to disciplines. You know, like with engineering, you've got your structural guys, you've got your mechanical, your industrial, your chemical, civil, and surveying's no different. We've got topographic surveys and hydrographic surveys and geodetic surveys and boundary surveys, and it's just this wide expanse. So it's difficult to really pinpoint what each individual land surveyor does. My specific field of expertise is probably boundary surveys.
Okay. So we wouldn't have any of our structures today if it weren't for land surveyors.
Yeah, so we're kind of the beginning and the end of a project, kind of first in, last out kind of guys. You know, we'll do the initial boundary survey because you don't want to build a building or a structure on someone's property that isn't giving you the authority to do so. We'll collect the topographic information so that we know that a road is gonna drain. You know, that water's got to go somewhere, that a building is not encroaching onto a neighbor's property or in a servitude that it has no right to be in. We'll take their design. So after we collect that information, we will relay that information to the design engineer, the professional, and then they'll give us their design and they'll say, hey, go lay this out. Like we'll take their kind of theoretical design and we'll put it on the ground. We'll say, hey, this is where that road goes, and this is where this drainage structure goes, and this is where this building goes, or these utility lines or pipelines, or and then after it's constructed, we'll kind of come back through and say, hey, you built it here, and here is the comparison between where it was designed to be placed and where it was actually placed. So like I said, we're kind of first in, last out profession.
Okay, yeah. So how did you decide that you wanted to be a land surveyor?
If I'm being perfectly honest, I actually said that I would not be a land surveyor.
Really?
Yeah, my dad is a land surveyor, and so I spent my summers kind of in high school in the woods. You know, it was hot. The fieldwork side of land surveying in South Louisiana specifically, and I know that there are there's other issues when you go north and it gets cold, and in South Louisiana, it's hot. It's heat. Oh, it's so hot. Tiffany. And you're from Texas, you know this. Humidity's
Yes.
90%, and it's 100 degrees anyway, and then you add the humidity in, and it's hot. So doing that in the summertime as someone coming up, kind of your age, sweating out there in the heat all day, I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I think I want to do something different. And then as I went to college and I started in civil, and kind of just always had that yearning to go back to surveying, because I like the mix of office to field ratio. You're able to get out of the office. You're not stuck behind a computer and a keyboard all day. You're not crunching numbers all day. You're in the field, and you're collecting evidence. Not only physical evidence but parole evidence. You're talking to landowners. You're really getting to mix it up, and that's really what drew me back to surveying. I tell my dad, and I'll probably tell him on Sunday, being that it's Father's Day, that it's all his fault. He didn't teach me anything else. So I'm here. I'm in surveying, and it has been a wonderful profession for me. I'm excited about my future and the career opportunities that I have. Now I talk to young people, and I'm consistently pushing a profession that I thought wasn't for me, and now kind of realizing that it was exactly for me. I just had to kind of grow and mature a little bit myself before I realized that.
Yes, that's a neat story. So what strengths do you have that make you a good land surveyor?
I actually have no strengths. No, I'm kidding. I kind of always rely more on my effectiveness to communicate than I do anything else. People often ask, and I kind of do a lot of volunteer work, which I encourage all of my co-professionals to do. I encourage young people, when you get to that level and you become a licensed surveyor, licensed engineer, get involved. It's just so it enriches your career, and you have these networks, these communication networks that are invaluable. People ask, what was the best course that you took? What did you feel gave you the most value currently in your profession? And for me, all of the technical aspects of land surveying, those courses were great. They aid me daily in doing this profession, but it was communication and management that I feel like really helped me the most, because you can be a phenomenal land surveyor, but if you can't relay your findings and your opinion to a client, and it happens to a judge or to an attorney, then you're not really as good as you thought, right? Like you need to be able to communicate with people, and kind of that conflict resolution. Not to say you're trying to weasel your way out of anything, but you need to be able to talk to people and be personable. And communication is probably one of my greatest strengths, if I had any.
Yes, communication is very important. So you mentioned that you get to have that nice balance between out of the office type of work and in the office. So can you describe what a typical day of work looks like for you?
Yeah. So it's kind of a case by case, but typically, I'll come in the office. I've got several crews here. I work for a private civil engineering and surveying firm called Sigma Consulting Group. We've got several crews. We've got another PLS on staff, and he's kind of over the management of those crews, and I kind of manage the department, the surveying department at Sigma. I'll come in and kind of make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing, or doing what we expect them to do. They're going where we expect them to go. They've got everything they need. And then it's mostly just meetings. I'll leave the office. I'll go out. I'll go to a site. We'll meet with clients. We'll talk about what kind of developments that they want to do. If it's a boundary survey, what are your expectations? What parole evidence or testimony can I collect from those guys? And it's just in and out. I'm back at the office for lunch, and then I'm back out in the field, and that's kind of my day to day. I was up in Yazoo, Mississippi yesterday, about 3 hours from Baton Rouge, where I'm located, meeting with some landowners about some federal easements that I'm working on. And then, late afternoon yesterday, I was back here, emailing a couple of clients, that kind of thing. So it's a great mix. I've really been fortunate to get to have that experience in my career.
Yes. So you mentioned that you got to go to Mississippi. Do you get to travel a lot?
I would say that I traveled more when I was younger in my career than I do now. Um, we have a small satellite office in Florida, and I'm licensed in Florida, and I get to go over there maybe every other month, something like that. North
Wow.
Louisiana, yeah, we're kind of Mississippi, North Louisiana. Done a couple of things in Texas. I'm licensed in Texas.
Yes.
Oh, I know. Yeah, look at you. Are you Aggies or Longhorn?
Longhorns. My brother goes to UT.
Okay. Maybe I'll forgive you. I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, I'm Tigers anyway. We're in Baton Rouge. But yeah, so yeah, we get to travel a little bit. I don't know if other surveyors have as much opportunity to travel as I do, and I'm sure that there are some surveyors that have more of an opportunity to travel than what I do. But it's a good mix for me. That way, I'm not away from home too long. I've got a dog that's overly dependent on me, and no, he's great. But but yeah, I get to be in and out of the office, and it makes things interesting.
Yes, definitely. So I'm sure that you've gotten to work on some really interesting projects. Can you tell me about what your favorite project would be of all time?
Favorite project of all time? That's that's pretty interesting. I last year I worked on a historical piece of property here in Louisiana. It was always a part of the Killarney family, and this property was just under 6,000 acres, and just
Wow.
huge piece of land, and still rural, kind of in the middle of nowhere. Um, we're recovering some ancient survey monuments, and back in the day, they wouldn't set kind of what we set now as survey monuments, but they might set like old posts or buggy axles, anything that they get their hands on to set as a corner monument, they would. And you know, following the footsteps of those historic land surveyors and interpreting these ancient documents and coming up with almost the same solution in regards to the location of a property monument. It feels great. You're in the middle of nowhere, you're in the middle of the woods, you're in this swamp, and it's hot and it's muggy, and there's no one for miles and miles and miles. And then you come across this 4x4 cedar post that was set in 1890, and at that point in time, you just feel so connected to that surveyor from the late 1800s, the early 1900s. Like, you guys kind of are sharing that, and that was special to me, to be able to go work on something, a piece of property that was so old, and kind of find some of those historic monuments. I really enjoyed that project a lot.
That's really cool. So I understand that you're a member of NCEES. Can you tell us a little bit more about that organization?
Yeah. So we talked about volunteer opportunities, and engineering profession, surveying, NCES is great. And so I'm a volunteer with NCES, and that acronym is the National Council of Examiners for Engineers and Surveyors. And what those guys do, they promote engineering and surveying, and um, they do it extraordinarily well. I mean, I believe that's how I met you the first time, was judging
Yes.
the Future City competition in Washington, D.C., the Best Land Survey Practice Award, which I'm pretty sure that you guys won in 2017.
Yes.
So if we're doing chats with change makers, I feel like I need to be interviewing you. That's impressive. That's a wonderful event, and the guys over at NCES, they do so much for the engineering and land surveying profession. Um, I do some exam authoring, so the whole acronym, the National Council of Examiners for Engineers and Surveyors, they also develop the intern and professional exams for the engineering disciplines as well as the land surveying disciplines. So we have like this fundamentals exam that we have to take, and it's a national based exam, which is kind of more of the math side of things. And then after you meet specific criteria for licensure, you go on to take the PS exam, which is the Principles in Practice. And I author questions for the PS exam with NCES. I've served on several committees with NCES, and it just have really opened the door for me to volunteer and kind of give back to the profession that's given me so much.
Yes, it sounds like you've done a whole lot with NCES.
Yeah, they've been good to me.
So, as you mentioned, NCES is one of Future City's main sponsors, including overall support and their award that's given at every region and finals. And Future City is Discovery's engineering program that challenges kids to design cities of the future. So in 2017, my Future City team was fortunate enough to win the Land Surveying Award at finals, and that's where I actually got to meet Brad for the first time. So Brad, I understand that you've been a judge for NCES's special award at finals for several years. Tell me about what it's like to do that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's breathtaking to see what you guys come up with, and I'll tell you, I didn't compete in anything like this when I was younger. I don't know that I ever really even knew about it, so didn't really have the opportunity. However, I don't know that I would have been any competition for you guys. You guys are so smart, like wicked smart. Every time I go to DC and judge with NCES for the best land surveying practices, and I see you guys collaborating with your teams and other teams, and I'm always just super impressed with you guys. Like I said, we've been doing that for, I personally have been doing it, I guess, since 2016, 2017, something like that. And I look forward to doing it in the future. As long as they'll have me, that is.
So, what have you learned from the Future City students over the years?
I would say that the Future Cities students have taught me how to roll with it, right? Like that's going to be it. So you get up there and you ask them kind of what some of the ins and outs of surveying are. I mean, the contest as a whole, there's so many different special awards, and everyone's just kind of generically prepared, which is impressive. You got, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, 30, 40 special awards, and the overall competition that includes your model and the presentation and the essay, and you talk to these young people and you're asking them questions kind of specific to your profession, and you're asking these questions because you know what the answers are, right? This is your profession. You want them to tell you something about it. And even if sometimes the students don't necessarily know a whole lot about, say, land surveying, because they have so much to prepare for, these kids are just rolling with it, right? You're asking them something and they're giving you the best that they have, and they're just evolving in the moment to answer the questions that you give them. And I've really kind of taken away that aspect of things. Coming back to my practice is that, you're not going to know everything, right? You're not going to know everything about every subject in your profession. And the best you can do is just try to learn from it and just keep moving forward, just keep pushing. And that's what I admire about you guys. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yes, that's important. So when you were in middle school, did you always want to be a land surveyor? I know you mentioned you didn't want to do it till later, but what did you want to be when you were in middle school?
When I was in middle school, I can't tell you that I really remember what I wanted to be. Isn't that sad? Like you had this dream and it didn't include land surveying, and then I really kind of always had a knack for biological sciences, and so
that's cool.
I wanted to go somewhere in that direction, and actually I started in civil because I felt like it was the more logical. I started college in civil and I felt like it was the more logical. Well, I left civil and enrolled in a biology program, and then kind of just navigated back towards surveying.
Yes. So when you were in middle school, what was a subject that was challenging for you?
Middle school. What are we
Well, it
learning?
doesn't have to be middle
What are
school.
we learning in middle school these days? Um, I would say challenging. I'll be honest with you. My middle school, high school career, it was just kind of easy for me. Um, Now in college, uh, physics, and I know that sounds weird because like I deal with physics on a daily basis, and I mean everybody does, but as a profession, we're using physics daily, and I struggled. I really did. I just struggled in physics. Both classes, physics 1 and 2. I just had a hard time with it. I'm not sure why, but I did, and I didn't have a problem with it in high school, but maybe I was less focused in college.
Well, I'm sure you learned from that experience.
Yeah, you always do, right?
So, in what ways does your job encourage you to be a change maker?
By allowing me the opportunity to volunteer, to serve, right? You know, I encourage people to volunteer. I encourage my co-professionals to volunteer, and they may not have that opportunity because they're tied up with work or they're tied up with family, and those things definitely have their place and they're very important. But for me personally, the opportunity to volunteer and serve my profession um, has been super important to me, and my profession allows me to do it.
Yes, and I'm sure it's a very valuable experience getting to give back to the community.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Meet people like yourself, and kind of watch you guys and see what your futures are going to be like, because realistically you guys are the change makers, right? Like, you know I recently turned 33, and I'm getting further along in my career and in my profession, and not that I've gone stagnant at all, but um, realistically you guys are who's going to change the world. And I'm not saying that we had our shot. We didn't. We're always given the opportunity to be change makers. But um, the youth of our profession and other professions is where we need to be investing.
Right. So now I'd like to ask you a few fun questions.
I
What do you
thought we
like to
were in
do
the fun
in
questions.
well, these are a little bit more random and not
Okay.
necessarily related to your career.
Okay. Wonderful.
What do you like to do in your spare time?
So spare time, we talked about this, right? In regards to what we were going to put on the social media tag or whatever it was, and I joked. I told Maggie that I'm not overly interesting. I'm kidding, but I do like to surf in my time, which is a little
Wow.
different because it's South Louisiana, right? We don't have the ocean and the waves that Hawaii or the West Coast have, Australia or anything like that. So we kind of generate our own waves. We do it behind a boat. So we'll weight like the back of a boat down with water. They're called ballast bags, and we'll weight the back of the boat down, and we'll displace a ton of water by not letting the boat get on plane. So we'll run about 10 to 11 miles an hour, and the boat's just pushing a ton of water, and it makes this beautiful 4-foot curled wave. And
Wow.
just like you see, anyone surfing in California, wherever, um, you surf on it. And it's just continuous. Like, as long as you want to go, or you fall because you're doing a trick or something like that, it'll carry you. It's so relaxing.
That's very creative. So this is our final question. What do you like to eat for breakfast?
What do I like to eat for breakfast? Okay. I love a bacon, egg, and cheese toaster sandwich.
Wow, that's interesting.
I'm going to ask you the same question. Tiffany, what do you like to eat for breakfast?
I'm more of a cereal person, honestly.
Okay. Are we talking like sugar-based cereal or healthy cereal? Are we eating Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms?
It kind of depends on the day. Sometimes Lucky Charms, sometimes Smart Start.
Okay, Lucky
Depends on the
Charms is
day.
a smart choice. I feel like that
Yes.
is your smart. If you're eating Lucky Charms, smart start right there. You're gonna have a good day regardless. You can't have a bad day if you started it with Lucky Charms. It's in the name.
Yes, definitely. So, Brad, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope that you all will join us again next Friday, where we'll meet Caroline, an engineer at UL. Just a reminder that next week will be our final week of the series before we take a summer break, and we'll be back in the fall. Until then, I hope everyone has a great week.